top 10 things to avoid at the beginning of a divorce. The things that you're going to want to avoid at the beginning stages, before a divorce case has started, before a divorce has happened. Number one is don't threaten to file for divorce. Avoid this idea that you're going to threaten your spouse and fight with your spouse about, I need to file for divorce, or I'm going to file for divorce, I'm going to go meet with a divorce lawyer. A lot of times the reason someone is sitting in here meeting with me, I'm a divorce lawyer here in Metro Detroit. A lot of times why they're here at my office in the first place, why they came in to meet with a divorce lawyer, is because their spouse is threatening to file for divorce. So you want to avoid that. It tips your hand. You're setting the other person up to be able to file first. There can be potentially a lot of advantages to filing first. So how do you avoid that kind of stuff from happening? You want to avoid the threats of divorce in the first place. If you're not getting along, okay, yeah, then that's probably obvious to both of you, but you don't need to take it to the next level and make things difficult and be fighting and making threats about filing for divorce. Just stay away from it. If you're resolved to file and that's what you're going to do, then you start planning it and you start getting into this world where you're not telling your spouse everything anymore. And the trust is eroding at that point. So don't keep telling them everything. Don't tell them all your plans. Don't make threats to file. If you're going to go file, then you go ahead and file. Number two in this list of the top 10 things to avoid at the beginning stages of a divorce, number two is make sure that you are organizing your documents. Avoid being unprepared. If you know this is happening and you're the one that's going to be starting the divorce, you want to be ready for it. You want to get your documents ready. Get things in order. Make sure you have receipts for things. Make sure you know what the monthly budget is, what the monthly household expenses are, a sense of, if you own a house, what the value is and what you owe on it. Or if you have retirement accounts, a sense of what those are worth, your retirement and your wife's retirement, not just you. And all of it, the bank accounts, the credit cards, the debts, the loans, student loans, whatever there might be, this whole list of things that are kind of your whole financial life, the marital estate, so to speak. The assets, the debts, the bills, all that stuff. You want to make sure you know what those things look like. You want to get organized, have documents ready. If you're planning to get divorced, then you want to be the one preparing to do that. Or if you suspect that your spouse is going to file, or maybe they've even threatened to file, you want to be ready for those things. You want to have your documents ready ahead of time. Number three in this list of top 10 things is the custody and children. This idea that what's going on with custody with if you have minor children, what's going on with the kids. You want to be ready for that. You want to be prepared for what's going to happen in a divorce case. We know that eventually either you're moving out or your spouse is moving out. So how's that going to look? Where are the kids going to be? Are they going to spend some of the time with you, some of the time with her? A lot of people come in here and say, I want half. I don't know what half means. What does half mean? It doesn't mean every day on, day off, right? One day with mom, next day with dad, back to mom. That's not going to work. So think through what you think is realistic. Where are you going to be living? Where do you picture this going? Where are they going to live? Where are you going to live? Who's keeping the house? Who's living where? And then try to get a sense based on schedule, work schedule, extracurricular activities for the kids, what school they're attending. Get a sense of what you think you'd want to see happen with the custody and parenting time schedule. You want to get organized on that, organize your thoughts on it. You're not going to have all the answers, but you want to have a sense of what you think prior to all this, before all this is going to happen, right? You want to be ready for it. Number four on this list of top 10 things to be avoiding, preparing for at the beginning of a divorce. Number four is you want to have at least 3 months of financial resources available if you can. Make sure that you have enough money for 3 months worth of bills, or enough money to pay the bills that are upcoming for the next 3 months, the household expenses, or you have the credit available to borrow that amount of money if needed to pay those bills. You want to be able to do all that if possible. You want some money available. Divorce is going to mean that you have some costs coming up. You might be hiring a divorce lawyer. You need money for a divorce lawyer. You need money for moving out if you're the one that's going to be moving out, or you need money to do all sorts of different things. So you want to be ready for that ahead of time and do some planning ahead of time by having money available, the resources available, the credit limit available, loans, whatever it is you got to do, so that you're not sitting there where you don't have $100 to your name. You want to make sure that this is a plan, and financially you're ready for this plan as best you can be. Not always anything you can do, but if there's something you can do about it, you want to plan for it and be ready for it. And then number 5 in this list of top 10 things to avoid, things to prepare for, make sure you get legal advice early on in the process. It's important to get all kinds of different advice early on, including legal advice. It's best to meet with a divorce lawyer before you've started a divorce, of course. I mean, that part's probably obvious. But you want to get way ahead of this thing, get a sense of what's coming and what you can expect and what this is going to look like. What are the laws and how do they apply to your situation? What's the waiting periods look like? What's the timeline? What's realistic on how long this will take? And what's going on during that time frame? Are we living together? Are we living apart? Maybe some of each. Get a sense of what you think all that's going to look like. And you're not going to know all these things. You're really not going to know what questions to try to answer if you have not gone in and tried to get the advice and get a sense of what all this looks like. Talk to an expert. They're certified divorce financial planners. That's an occupation. That's a person that you could talk to early on before a divorce is filed and you're preparing for things. Get a sense of what the household expenses are, what the plan is, what you're going to do with your house, and what you think is going to go on with child custody. If you have children, custody, parenting time, child support, get a sense of what all that is going to look like. Get advice about all those things. Early on in the process, you may also want to talk to a therapist, not just a marriage counselor, but you probably want to talk to someone separately and talk through some of this. It can be a lot of things. It can feel pretty overwhelming sometimes. You want to be ready for that and get some advice early on how to handle that, how to talk to your spouse if there's a lot of difficulty, arguing, disagreements. Those things can be upsetting. It can really turn your world upside down. You want to be prepared for that and get advice as best you can on those sorts of things. And then number 6 on this list of top 10 things to be prepared for, top 10 things to avoid in a divorce is make sure that you have available credit. Make sure that you are able to pay whatever bills might be coming up here. You got a real sense of what your expenses are going to look like and what you think is going to be happening here. So you want to be ready. This is the kind of stuff you want to do before the divorce is filed. You want to make sure you have available credit. If you have savings, that's great, but you also want to know what are the credit cards, what's the debt, what money do I have? If I need to come up with $5,000 to pay something, do I have that kind of money? Can I get that kind of money? Can I get a loan? Do I have a credit card? Do I have that kind of money available in savings? You want to make sure you have a sense of all of that before a divorce case starts. This is all assuming that you have a sense that this is coming, that you know this is something you can plan for. Maybe you're the one that's going to be filing for divorce, so you want to have a plan. Part of that plan would be make sure you have some available credit. Number 7 on this list of top 10 things to do to plan for a divorce would be to have a plan for some sort of domestic violence issues and concerns about that. You want to make sure that if there's been domestic violence, arguing, emotional abuse, maybe even physical abuse, you want to be prepared for that. This may mean you want to move out right away, or it may mean you want your spouse to move out right away. You want to have a plan for how that's going to work, what that's going to look like, get advice about it, or maybe you're the one trying to deal with false accusations about domestic violence. Maybe your spouse is accusing you of things falsely, or accusing you of being abusive, or threatening to call the police and claim that you did something when you didn't do anything. You want to be ahead of all that. You want to have a sense of what's the plan. Does that mean you should move out right away? Do you move out for a week? Do you move out for good? Get advice from a divorce attorney, get advice from friends, family about how to handle domestic violence, potential domestic violence, accusations. That whole world is something you definitely want to be planning for. Number 8 on this list, top 10 things to prepare for with a divorce. There's this old saying, it comes from English common law, that possession is 9/10 of the law. Well, this isn't England, and possession is not 9/10 of the law here, but it can be in Michigan as far as custody. Possession can definitely be a big factor when it comes to child custody. So what does that mean? It means don't move out of the house for no reason if you have little kids. Stay living together. There's no basis to be just moving out and just because you have one argument or your wife tells you to leave, spouse tells you to leave, however it is. You want to stay living together if that's possible. You got to be able to keep the peace. You want to avoid other things like domestic violence, threats of domestic violence, police being called, even if it's police being called falsely. You want to avoid that kind of stuff. But truly, living together is your best start on a child custody situation, whether it's a divorce or even if you're not legally married, if it's just a custody situation, you want to avoid living apart at the beginning. Your best bet, your likeliest chance of getting shared custody is by living together with the kids at the time that the lawsuit is started, whether it's a divorce or a custody case, whatever it is. the time I file for divorce, if we live together, I have shared custody because the kids are living in the house with us. So you want to keep that in place if you can. You want to be thinking about those things before you start a divorce or a custody case. And then number 9 in this list of top 10 things to prepare for, things to avoid with divorce, one thing you want to put in place and prepare for is to have a support system in place. Make sure that your family and friends know that a divorce is coming. If you're not comfortable about discussing the divorce, then make sure you just reach out, get back in touch with some people that maybe you haven't talked to for a while. There are people that know you, that love you, that want to help you. They don't know you're struggling. They don't know you're having troubles because you're keeping it all to yourself. Let them in a little bit. Let them know what's going on. Check in with them. Let them know, reach out to them. They'll be there for you when the time comes. If they have some sense that you're aware and need some help and are out there and alive and well. I mean, some people, you just don't talk to them for months, and you want to check in with people and make sure that they know that you're going through something, or if you're not comfortable discussing that, then just check in with them, just so they know that you're there for them and they'll be there for you. And then number 10 on this list of things to prepare for, things to avoid with a divorce is, remain civil. There's no good come from causing fights and antagonizing the other person and fighting. Now that you know there's going to be a divorce, you start acting crazy and picking fights. It's no good. You want to keep the peace. If you're trying to stay living together at the beginning, which is good advice, then to do that, you got to be able to keep the peace and keep that stuff going. So that's it on the list of things to do before you file for divorce. Hopefully that's been helpful.